What's going on, everyone? We are getting back from a scorched event, Formula Drift Orlando 2024. It was an amazing event, and on this episode of The Breakdown, we're going to take the opportunity to kind of break down a couple of the battles, 3 of them, to kind of give you guys a little clarity on what happened and how that unfolded and how the judges ended up going the way that they did. Now, my name is Reese, Marin. I am one of the new judges for Formula Drift in the 2024 season. Typically, you see the breakdown on the 9NINE2 channel on YouTube, but now it's going to be shown on the Formula Drift channel on YouTube. All right, now on this episode, we're going to be reviewing 3 battles. All right, one of the battles is going to be in top 16, Taylor Hall against Connor Shanahan. Then we have the top 32 battle between Jonathan Castro and Ryan Turk. And then what we're going to start with today on the breakdown is going to be the first battle we're going to be reviewing, which is in the seeding bracket, very important, between Connor Shanahan and Adam LZ. Now, I want to kind of go into this first by explaining now, in this battle, the result ended up being all 3 judges ended up going with Connor Shanahan getting the win. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch the battle, and then we're going to kind of, unpack it a little bit and give some clarity on why the judges went the way they did. And I'll give you a little input on how I saw it from my perspective as well.
Adam LZ from Woodbury, Connecticut. I know that one, but the LZ compound, he's resided here in Florida for quite some time.
All right, you can see they're getting to the burnout box, getting ready. I really like the livery that Adam has.
Shanahan's running the LS.
Yeah, I like it. He's doing a full burnout and adjusting the mirror at the same time.
Yeah, dude.
All right.
Yeah, I think he was looking at his hair. Yeah. Wasn't even like looking back.
Now, the reason I'm saying that is very important that we, underline that this was a seeding bracket battle, and it was the final bracket in the seeding bracket, was because there isn't any one more times. So the judges had to make a decision based off of the battle that they see here.
Coming back, welcome back, Shanahan.
All right, so we have Connor taking off, Connor in the lead, LZ in the chase. Here comes the initiation, going into outside zone 1. Both the drivers getting on throttle, completing outside zone 1, coming off the bank. Inner clip 1, here comes the transition, going into inner clip 2. Both drivers going into outside zone 2, getting on throttle, good proximity, a lot of action there.
BMW and Smokey all over right now. It's here at OSW. Shanahan and LZ.
All right, now we're going to look at the replay and see if we can kind of unravel a little things here. Here comes the initiation. You see they're getting into outside zone 1. You can see there's a little bit of a bobble there from both drivers. A little bit of bobble by LZ as well too. Completing outside zone 1. You see Connor doing a good job in the lead here, getting into inner clip 1. See a little bit of separation there from Adam. Close at the proximity, Adam does. You can see Connor does a really good job with inner clip 2. Gets right into outside zone 2, Connor that is, and then you have Adam doing a good job of getting right into the pocket as well too. Close at the proximity. This was looking really good. See, we get another perspective from the drone. Here's the initiation again. You see a little bit of a bobble there, a little bit of bobble by Adam as well too. They get right into the pocket again, get backs on throttle, come off the bank, inner clip 1. Here comes the transition, inner clip 2. Good job there. You can see Connor's doing a really good job of starting outside zone 2 where he needs to be. Adam does a really good job of getting into the pocket there. You can see right there. That's what we're talking about. All the way through, throttling all the way out. All right, now that's the first half of the battle. Let's go into the second half. All right, so now we're going to switch it. We have LZ in the lead, Connor in the chase. Here comes the initiation. A little bit of bobble by both drivers, going into outside zone 1. Ends outside 1, comes off the bank. Inner clip 1, here comes the transition. Good dive by Connor. Inner clip 2 is really well. Then you have LZ and Connor getting into outside zone 2. Nice and deep. Maybe a little bit too deep. All right, now that's the second half of the battle. Let's watch the replay, see if we can unravel a couple of things that we see there as well too. All right, here's the replay. Here comes the initiation. Now you can kind of see the initiation happens. You kind of see Adam has a little bit of a bobble there. That bobble could have caused Connor having a little bit of an error as well too. Connor does a good job of adapting to that. They get right back where they need to be, deep into the outside zone 1. Come off of outside zone 1. Adam does a good job of getting to inner clip 1. You can see Connor's a little bit closer in proximity in the chase as well too. You can see Connor's really aggressive with his transition, gets right into the pocket of LZ. LZ does what he needs to do, gets into inner clip 2, gets right where he needs to, keeps the proximity very well. You can see LZ does a really good job of getting into outside zone 2. Both on throttle. This is great. This is the part where a lot of people started wondering like what was going on here. Like, now, very big key thing here. I didn't see that when I was watching it live. I'll get into that in a little bit, but you can see LZ, you can see he's going a little bit wide going up on the apron. Connor doing a good job of getting right into the pocket, finishes up. Let's see if we can get another view from the drone as well too. There's the initiation, a little bit of a bobble there from Adam in the lead. Could have caused a little bit of a bobble for Connor as well too. As I said, he does a really good job of adapting, gets back into the pocket into outside zone 1. They finish outside zone 1, comes off the bank. Inner clip 1 looks really good. Here comes the transition. Really aggressive dive by Shanahan. Good job of proximity for inner clip 2. Goes right into outside zone 2. LZ that is. Stays on throttle. You can start. He starts to get a little wide here, and it ends the battle. Now, I can definitely see how the judges ended up going with Connor Shanahan in this battle. You know, we did have an opportunity to touch base with a lot of the judges and look at their notes, and so they can give a little insight on why they went. And you can kind of see that all 3 judges went the same way. When it comes down to it, Shanahan does a really good job. Both drivers did good in regular competition. This probably could have been a one more time. This is something that Brian Egger said and Robbie Nishida said. Had this not been a seeding bracket battle, they could have seen this going one more time. But since this is a seeding bracket battle, then they have to come to a decision. And when they started dissecting the run, they ultimately ended up going with Connor. They really liked the aggressiveness of the transition going into inner clip 2. And ultimately, the big ding was when Adam was in the lead, he kind of had a little bit of a bobble, caused Connor to kind of have a little bit of a shimmy as well too. I'm assuming they placed that ding on LZ. And also when LZ is in the lead and he's in outside zone 2, you can see he goes a little bit wide. See if we can back it up a little bit just so you guys can get a little clarity on that. See a little bit of a bobble there. So I can totally see why the judges went with it in that manner. Then you can see the transition and the dive by Connor. All right, so they definitely like that. And then unfortunately here in the lead, you can see Adam goes a little bit wide. And the reason that's so important is because in the drivers' meeting, it was brought up that we want to make sure that the drivers don't drift up onto the apron because it's going to give them an unfair advantage and allow the car to be able to get around a little bit quicker. So being that is, when they look at the error that Adam LZ had in outside zone 1, when you look at the error that he had in outside zone 2, and they were very impressed with the dive that Connor had, they ultimately went up with Connor. I can totally see how they went that way. I do agree with that call. So that kind of wraps up the debate between Adam LZ and Connor. That was really one of my favorite battles. Truth be told, when I was watching it live, I didn't get a chance to watch the replays or anything like that. When I was watching it live in the stands, I'll be honest, I thought Adam won. Off the naked eye, I was watching it from the stands. I didn't have a chance to look at any of the replays or anything like that, and I honestly thought that Adam LZ got the win on that one. Obviously, when I got to look at the replays and stuff, as you would in a normal judging situation, I could see where they were coming from and completely understood why they went with Connor. All right. Now, the next battle that we have lined up is Jonathan Castro and Ryan Turk. Now, this isn't seeding bracket. This is just a regular top 32, so there is one more times allowed in this one. Now, I do want to explain that the battle that we're going to see here is between Castro and Turk, but the first time they ended up going into the battle. They did end up going one more time in this, and the reason I'm going to clarify that is because we have Robbie and we have Brian Egger that ended up going one more time, and then we have Vernon who ended up going with Castro. So it wasn't unanimous. There definitely was a split, and we're going to let the battle unfold, kind of touch on a couple scenes and errors and things that we see in the battle, and then give some clarity on why the judges went one more time and why did Vernon ended up going with Castro.
Jonathan Castro, Ryan Turk, Dominican Republic's Dominican's finest from Santo Domingo, Jonathan Castro in that Toyota GR energy drink pilot. And here comes Jonathan Castro through the chicane.
There goes the initiation. Both drivers get into outside zone 1. A little bit of shimmying by both. Completes outside zone 1, comes off the bank. Here comes inner clip 1. Here comes the transition. Really aggressive by Turk, inner clip 2. Gets into outside zone 2. Both drivers getting on throttle, and they complete. All right, now, we do see some errors there. Let's see if we can go into the replay. We see the initiation. You can kind of see Castro is a little bit low on that. Turk maybe dives in a little bit too quick, has to back off throttle. Gets back on throttle, gets back where he needs to be. Castro is right where he needs to be as well, too. Comes off the bank. Castro does a good job of inner clip 1. Here comes a transition from Castro lining up for inner clip 2, but we also see an aggressive transition and good positioning on the dive from Ryan Turk. Inner clip 2, fantastic by Castro. We can see he's going into outside zone 2. Now, we can pay very close attention right here. This is outside zone 2. You can see Castro comes in, is not in outside zone 2. Halfway through, still not in outside zone 2. Finally starts getting into outside zone 2. Turk does what he needs to do, gets right into the pocket, keeps his proximity up. Locked in. Gets the angle, finishes up the run. See if we can get the replay from the drone as well, too. Here we go. We can see a little bit of the initiation here from Castro. He's a little bit low on the initiation and looks a little bit like maybe Turk lunged forward a little bit, choked up, came back off, gets back on throttle again. Really good job of adapting. Finishes up outside zone 1. You can see Castro does a good job of inner clip 1. Here comes that aggressive transition by Turk. Gets right into the pocket. That's what we want to see. Very similar to what we saw Connor Shanahan do in the last battle we just reviewed. Castro does a good job of inner clip 2. And ultimately, at least for me, I can see right there outside zone 2, he is missing it. Misses it a good bit. Castro finally gets into outside zone 2, about halfway mark. Turk gets right where he needs to be with proximity, angles up the car where he needs to into the pocket, and he finishes the run. All right. Switching it around now, we have Turk in the lead, and we have Castro in the chase. All right, here we go. Here comes the initiation. Both drivers creeping up into outside zone 1. See a little bit of a contact going on there. Completes outside zone 1, comes off the bank, inner clip 1. Here comes the transition. Inner clip 2. Turk goes into outside zone 2. Seems like a little wide as well, too. Castro, a little bit shallow in angle, but the proximity is looking good. All right. See, we go into the replay. Break down a little bit what we're seeing. All right, here comes the initiation. Turk does a good job getting into outside zone 1 a little bit, at least from this angle it does. Castro's pretty low. It looks like Turk maybe comes off throttle a little bit there because we don't see any smoke going. You can see Castro really closing in the gap. There is contact. At this point, big props to both drivers, staying on throttle, making it a good show. Both drivers took the contact, kept on going. You can see Turk's a little low in outside zone 1. Castro following him right where he needs to be. You can see inner clip 1. Good job. Maybe a little bit closer. And we see the transition. Now, Castro doesn't have the same aggressiveness as Turk does. Turk does a good job of getting inner clip 2. Castro makes a little adjustment, gets right where he needs to be. Now, what I do like is Turk does get into outside zone 2 where he needs to, and he stays, maybe creeps out for a second, a little shallow, gets right where he needs to there as well, too. And comes to an end there. Here's another perspective from the drone. We can see the initiation. See, Turk he's getting into outside zone 1 just a little bit. Castro is pretty low. Now, I do see right there, we do see that the smoke kind of fades, so we don't know if there was a lift or what happened there. In any case, Castro does close the gap. Seems like there is A little bit of a hit there. Props for both drivers to keep on going, stays on throttle, keep on drifting, finish outside zone 1. Coming into inside clip 1, here comes the transition. Castro right where he needs to be. Maybe not as aggressive as Turk was when he was doing his transition. I liked how Turk was a little bit more accurate in getting into the pocket. Turk does a good job of getting into inner clip 2. Castro does a good job as well too. And then you see Turk does an amazing job of entering outside zone 2 where he needs to. Stays into outside zone 2. This is a better perspective of it. You can see Castro doing a good job of getting the proximity, but he is a little shallow on the angle. Oh, you do see there, Turk does go a little bit wide, puts a tire onto the apron, and comes to an end there. All right, now, ultimately we have 2 judges that ended up going one more time in this battle, and it did. They ended up going one more time. They ended up battling again. Turk ended up getting the win. But a lot of people were a little confused on, well, maybe Turk could have won, maybe it was Castro, and all we can do here is kind of give you a little clarity on what we're going on here. Now, when it comes to Robbie and it comes to Brian, when they decided to go with a one more time, generally they were looking at it as both drivers had minor mistakes in their lead and in their chases, but when comparing them, they kind of looked at it like, you know what, this was equal. We're going to go one more time. We're going to run them again. Now, for Vernon, he ended up going with Castro in this case. Now, he could have seen this going maybe a one more time if we were going to compare lead to lead, but he honestly feels that, he actually feels that Castro overall had a better or a more chaseable lead in the run. And when it comes chase to chase, that long off throttle that Turk did ultimately may have caused the error, at least in Vernon's eyes. And ultimately when there was going to be, when that hit ended up happening, that's when we saw Turk maybe have gotten off throttle for a quick second and then Castro closing the gap, although he was pretty low, he ended up coming in, closing the gap, and there seemed to be a little bit of collision as well. We ended up seeing the drivers just staying on throttle and going through. So Vernon ended up seeing that, and you also saw that Turk ended up going a little bit onto the apron as well too. So he ended up ultimately going with Castro. So he likes how Castro was doing his lead run. He thinks it was better than Turk's lead run, and so he ended up going with Castro. The other 2 judges saw that both chase and lead were equally, had some minor errors and stuff like that, and ultimately ended up going one more time in that. When I ended up seeing the battle in person, I actually thought Turk. I thought Turk, when I saw the battle in person from the stands, when I saw the replays, it was pretty apparent that it was going to go more on a one more time. So really pleased with that. I totally see why they went one more time, and I definitely see why Vernon ended up going the way he did with Castro. Obviously, there's 3 judges. You're going to get 3 perspectives. Definitely respect the background of all 3 of the judges, and I totally understand why they went the way they did, and I completely respect their decision. Now, moving on to the next battle in Top 16, we are going to be reviewing Taylor Hall and Connor Shanahan. Now, this was another one. This was another battle that when I saw in person, I thought Taylor got the win. All right. I wasn't seeing replays. I wasn't seeing anything like that. I was just watching it from the stands as I wasn't judging on Orlando. So I just got to watch right where the judges were, just underneath them. But I was just judging and I was just watching in the stands and enjoying drifting for what it is. So from that perspective, I thought Taylor Hall won. Now the official call was that Connor Shanahan unanimously got the win. All right, so let's watch the battle, and then we'll kind of unpack it and kind of give you guys some clarity on why they went the way they did. So we have Hall in the lead, and we have Shanahan in the chase. And here we go. Here comes the initiation. Both drivers get into outside zone 1. Couple of errors there, adapting, coming off of outside zone 1, inner clip 1, here comes the transition, inner clip 2, right into outside zone 2, getting on throttle, both drivers, getting right where they need to be, a little bit of separation there, and we come to an end. Now, let's see if we can watch the replay, kind of see if we can see some errors, or some of the reasons why the judges went the way they did. All right, here comes the initiation. You can see Hall initiates. You can see maybe there was a little blip of the throttle, a little bit of a bobble there. I believe that may have caused Connor to make an adjustment prematurely. Connor does a really good job of adapting, getting back on throttle. You can see Taylor's a little bit low in outside zone 1, but doing a good job of adapting, getting back where he needs to be. Connor doing a good job too. You can see here, little low in outside zone 1, and Connor's doing what he needs to do, which is just chase the lead driver where he's going. Going into interclip 1. Wow, Taylor does a really good job of that. Here comes the transition. Seems like Taylor Hall is lining himself up. He's a little off of outside zone 2, of interclip 2. And you see Connor does a really good job of transitioning, getting right into the pocket where he needs to be. Taylor goes into outside zone 2. You can see he misses getting into outside zone 2 where you would want to, which is a little bit down here. Looks like he kind of does a little bit similar to what we saw Castro do in that one battle, where he misses outside zone 2 and then gets in it a little bit later, about halfway through. Connor's doing the best he can to get into position as well too. You can see that. I didn't see that before. Taylor Hall goes a little bit onto the apron. So we have Taylor Hall entering a little bit late, finally getting to outside zone 2 and then going up onto the apron. Connor doing what he needs to do, trying to stay close in proximity. Wish he had a little bit more angle, but you see from the drone shot here, a little bit of a bobble. Connor does what he needs to do to adjust. Gets back into the pocket again. Finishes outside zone 1. Going into inner clip 1. Here comes the transition. Connor really good with the aggressiveness. You can see Taylor Hall was a little bit off of inner clip 2 like we suggested. You can see he misses outer zone 2. Gets into outer zone 2 correctly there. Connor doing the best to try to close the gap, but I think he may have seen some of the errors, so he's kind of weary on how much he's going to commit. I do wish Connor had a little bit more angle up. Just off of what we've seen in that first half of the battle, we already know that all 3 judges ended up going with Connor Shanahan. All right, we got to see the battle there where Taylor Hall did his lead run. His lead run wasn't the best lead run. All right, definitely wasn't a 0 or anything like that. But you can see that there were some errors and there were some issues with consistency, which probably didn't give Connor the confidence that he needed to really stick it to his door. That plays a big role because we're going to see the second half of the battle. Let's pay very close attention to how we see Connor do his lead run and what that allows Taylor Hall to do in the chase. All right, Connor Shanahan in the lead, Taylor Hall in the chase. Let's watch this battle. And they're off. Here comes the initiation. Both drivers creeping their way up into outside zone 1. Coming to the end of outside zone 1, coming off the bank. Inner clip 1. Here comes the transition. Look at Taylor Hall go. Inner clip 2. Right into outside zone 2. Look at Hall. Hall is driving like he is possessed. Absolutely amazing. All right. I made sure that I thoroughly explained to Taylor Hall's spotter, his wife, that was amazing, an amazing chase. Now, we do see some errors there. We could see that Taylor Hall was a little bit low on outside zone 1, crept his way up into outside zone 1 to get into the pocket. You can see Connor comes off the bank. Inner clip 1 does a really good job. Taylor Hall does a really good job of calculating this transition. Starts to get right into the pocket there. Connor does a really good job of inner clip 2. And you can see what I like here is Connor does get into outside zone 2, right where he wants him to be. I would like him maybe be a little bit deeper, to be honest. And you can see Connor's dead locked in. Taylor Hall is right there behind them into the pocket as well. Beautiful. Now, let's watch the drone footage a little bit here. Now, we're going to replay it again because all 3 judges ended up going with Connor Shanahan. The reason for that is because all 3 judges pretty much came to the decision that Connor Shanahan's lead run was superior to the lead run that Taylor presented. Since Connor Shanahan had such a good lead run, it allowed Taylor Hall to have such an amazing chase. And trust me, it was an amazing chase. But when we look at the first half of the battle, Connor, when he was chasing Taylor Hall, you can see Taylor Hall didn't really have an amazing lead run. It was a good run, but it wasn't as good as the lead run that Connor Shanahan presented. So we've all talked about it before. In order for you to have a really good chase, you have to have a really good lead. And in this battle, Connor Shanahan had the better lead, which was absolutely phenomenal. But a lot of props to Taylor Hall. When I was watching this in person, all right, like I said, I thought Taylor Hall won. When I saw the replay and I looked at everything, I could clearly see how that wasn't the case, and they ended up going with Connor Shanahan. So definitely agree with that. It was an amazing battle. It was intense. Big props to Taylor Hall, because like that chase was awesome, and you know, I'm a big fan of drifting, and just seeing something like that, it was just absolutely amazing. So those were the 3 battles that we ended up going over. I know a lot of people want to get a little clarity on that. Let me know how you guys liked it. Put some comments in. Let us know what you think. If you want us to touch over some other battles and stuff like that, this is something we're going to start doing again. Obviously, like I said before, we did this show on the 9NINE2 YouTube channel, and we're going to start doing them now on the Formula Drift channel. So make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you put some comments in. Give us some feedback so we can better serve you guys and give you guys better explanations. Until next time, we will see you on the breakdown.